Thank you.
Terrence J.
What's up, Mr. Louis Carr? Guys, give it up for Mr. Louis Carr. A legend, the icon.
No, you're the icon, all right.
I appreciate that.
So Terrence, as you know, we are gonna, can I say this? I don't know if I'm even supposed to say this. This is something that's just me and you know.
Okay.
But no, I don't think I can say it. I just thought of what I was getting ready to say.
You about to spill some beans?
I was going to spill some beans,
right.
but I don't think I can do that, all right? Let me get my corporate side on.
Yeah.
So, Terrence, you've had an amazing career.
Yeah. Thank you.
And BET was lucky to have you start there. Did you always want to be in this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in high school, and I remember this moment as clear as day, I was a class clown. I was always joking around. I knew I had a lot of energy. I was always making fun of things. And I had a teacher that looked at me and said, as she was sending me to the principal's office, she said, that big mouth of you is going to do one of two things. Either you're going to use it for good or use it for evil. Either you're going to end up in jail or you're going to end up on TV somewhere, and I hope it's the latter. And that stuck with me. It was such a strong thing to say to me when I was, 14, 15 years old. And I remember being determined after that and saying, I definitely don't want to be in jail, so I got to make it. And I was in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I didn't know anybody that was in the entertainment industry. And I just remember I was determined to figure out a way to entertain people. I just love to entertain people.
So how did you get your role on 106 in Park? How did that happen?
Woo, Mr. Carr, that was a crazy day. So there was a new face audition, and shout outs to my man Eric Watson, who I just saw in the building. There was a new face audition where thousands of people just came and stood in line to try to get a job on BET. There were over 1,000 or 1,500 people in line that day, and I remember I got the name tag. My name tag was number like 562, if I can remember correctly, right? That's how many people were in line in front of me. When I got in there, I remember I was so nervous that I completely fumbled the little script that they gave me. And the person that was right in front of me in line all that time came out of the room like, yeah, I nailed it. And they made it to the second round of the audition. And I was like, man, I couldn't believe that I was standing next to a person that advanced, but I couldn't advance. So they had auditions the next day in Atlanta, Georgia. So I drove from New York down to Atlanta to audition for the same job twice because I just wanted to prove to myself that I could at least make it to the second round of auditions. And that second round of audition turned into now 25 years, later of a career by taking the extra step.
So Terrence, did they know it was your second round? Did they recognize you?
That's such a good question because a lot of people don't even ask that question. So when I drove from New York to Atlanta, I didn't even have luggage. I got in the car with one of my boys. I was wearing the same thing that I was wearing in New York. All the fellas, you know how it is. You just sleep in the car. We just took switching over driving. I had the name tag from New York, right? When I got to the line in Atlanta, I was late and I missed the cutoff. All 1,000 people had already went. And because I just had a name tag, I told the security guard, I was like, oh, I was already in there. I just forgot something. Let me in there. I was one of the last people to audition, and the only way I got in that audition is because I had the name tag from New York. When I got in, I made it through 3 rounds, and I really advanced because I was more confident because I knew what to expect when I walked in the room this time, right? I knew the script by heart. So when they handed me the sheet, I didn't even need it. I knew what it was because I was in the car that long drive just practicing. And I wasn't nervous because I was so tired that I was just, all the nerves were gone. And I ended up making it all the way. Stephen Hill was the last audition, and he was the only person that realized my name tag said New York. And I was embarrassed that it said it, and he was more impressed. He was like, nobody else went to multiple cities, and he was more impressed by it. And I always tell that story because sometimes when somebody tells you no, it's just the setup for your yes. And you got to take that extra step.
So you had this great run on 106 and Park. Did you have any idea that the brand was going to continue to flourish in that, like that?
Oh, I had no idea. You know, the easiest part was getting on the show, right? The hardest part was staying on the show. People hated us. We came after AJ and Free, legendary. I had no formal television experience. There was no formal training on communication and how to talk to people. No emotional intelligence, no grounded format. And I was just coming out of college and was just trying to pay my rent. So it was a real shell shock when I got this job, because a lot of people didn't think we deserved it, and we really had to put in the work and earn it. And Roxy and I ended up being the longest hosts on the show. It became the biggest during our run, which is something we're really proud of. And we're just proud to be a part of that legacy. Like the show and the culture really means a lot to us.
So the show was to really break new talent and show new talent, and I guess break new hosts, all right, at the same time. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So you have this great run, and then you get into movies. You know, how did you kind of make that transition? Was that always your thing? You wanted to do movies too?
So there's a saying that my uncle used to say. He said, listen, whatever you're doing in life, never leave the club when the lights turn on, right? And that always stuck with me. Whenever you're in a job, whenever you're in an environment, whenever you're in a situation, and you can see the end of it, you want to make sure that you leave before they have to kick you out of the club, right? And we were on the show for a really long time. And you go from being a child to being a man. I started in my early 20s. By the time we were at the end, we were in our 30s, and there was these young cats coming in. And how hip hop, it's always evolving. There's always new people. There's always fresh faces. And I never wanted to be the old guy that overstayed his welcome. And I knew that what I wanted to do in my career was films. So I made sure to leverage the opportunity that I had. I met Steve Harvey and Will Packer on the show. I became friends with them. They had a small movie script that they were developing with a bunch of not really known actors at the time. And they had a table read in LA while I was on the show. And I remember I lied to Steve, and I was like, man, I'm not feeling well this week. I might need to take a couple days off. And I took off of work. I flew to L.A. I don't know if Steven knows that part of the story. So I'm sure he does.
Terrence, that's a common practice, okay?
So I fly for this table read in L.A. I didn't even know what a table read was. I sit down at the table. It was an unknown comedian to the world that I sat next to named Kevin Hart. Across from me is Taraji P. Henson and Gabrielle Union. And the person that was supposed to have my role, I just went to fill in on the table read, just to be in the room. They ran out of money because they had to pay everybody else, so they got me to do it for free. I signed a contract to do what became Think Like a Man. I did the movie for free, and I just put a condition in there, hey, if the movie does good, you can pay me off of whatever it does. That movie ended up doing over $100 million in the box office. I ended up getting I got a check in the mail for $1 million because I just believed and I did it. And, Will Packer and Steve Harvey and that whole crew, they looked out for me. But it never would have happened if I just didn't take a leap of faith. And everything just happened because I just kept going and never stopped, and never become complacent. When you feel like, it's time to evolve, trust your instinct. And people told me I couldn't do it. They always tell me you can't do something. Don't let them tell you you can't do something. Just keep on evolving.
Amen. Amen.
So Terrence, you go on to make that movie and several more afterwards. And you've had this you know, Bob Johnson used to say you don't want to be a one-trick pony. So, all right, so now you've been on 106 in Park, you're a movie star, and then you just told me a couple of weeks ago that you're in the real estate. So that's your third trick. All right, tell us about the real estate business.
So I was living here in LA for over a decade, and you know, Hollywood will do a trick on you. I ended up getting held up at gunpoint. I ended up getting robbed, attempted robbery, right in front of my house. Some young cats pulled up right on me and tried to carjack me as I was going in. And that was the third burglary that happened in my neighborhood, one on my house and like two at a couple houses. And I said to myself, man, I gotta move. It's time for me to figure out what's next. And I ended up renting the house out that I was staying in where I got robbed at. I rented it to somebody else just because I left so quick. And the rental business really became lucrative. So then I really started paying attention, and then that rental business led to me buying another house and renting it. And then once you really start to increase your financial literacy, you realize what other cultures and other people have been doing for years. Them banks open up them doors, and then you can really start getting equity lines to buy more properties. And so I've amassed a real estate portfolio that has been able to sustain my lifestyle more than, a lot of the things I was even able to do in Hollywood, which is why I love to talk to especially us about working together, increasing our financial literacy together, looking out for each other. When you look at different communities, a lot of times they'll stay in one house and then they'll keep building up, and then this person will buy a house and branch off. And that's why I always do business, especially with black men. And I love to do, panels like this where we can talk about financial literacy, anything, because there's money there for the taking. But what they don't expect us to do is work together. And so when we work together, a lot of my properties, I work with other people, and you're able to just get more real estate, more, lines of credit, more things when we work together. And so that's what I really love doing is partnerships and working with each other.
So Terrence, where did you get the confidence? I call this first-timers, or first-time TV hosts, first-time movie star, first-time real estate. Where did you get the confidence to take that first step and say, I'm just going to try it?
That's another great question. The initial stages of my career came from a place of desperation. Like I was so poor, and so I had nothing. When I was hosting 106 those first couple of months, I was sleeping on a friend's couch. I had loads of student debt to pay back, and I have no brothers and sisters. I don't come from a big socioeconomic background, and it was really, I just want to be able to make it and to help out my family. And so from there, it started off as desperation, and then it built up into just hunger for more, right? I just wanted to accomplish things that hadn't been done. When I started E-News right after, I wanted to show that you could come from, hip-hop culture, but then I could go head-to-head with Ryan Seacrest, and I can conjugate verbs, and I can do that. I can do the Oscars. I can do any of those things, and I just never wanted to put myself in a box. But while I went, it was always still important for me to stay grounded and stay at home. Every single year since I've left BET, I've still been a part of the BET family and do business every single year, which I appreciate, always having a home. And I don't care what movie, what home base, I'm still going to come back and do the BET Awards. If Louis Carr calls me, I'm still going to come and show up for him any single time. No, I don't need payment, I don't need nothing. Always got to keep your relationships intact And that's always just been my key to success, is looking ahead, but also not burning bridges, keeping my relationships, and never, ever forgetting where you came from. Because as soon as you forget where you came from, I've seen so many people over my 20-year career fall off, and then they got nowhere to go. And it don't matter whether I'm hot or cold in Hollywood. I know where home is, right? I'm going to come back here and get a bag either way. So you always got to know where home is.
So Terrence, you talk about relationships. I've known you for a long time. You never were in any controversy. You never heard anybody say anything bad about you. How does that happen in Hollywood? I mean, how did you do that? I mean, there are some, but there are very few people that no one says anything bad about. You happen to be in that special class. How does that happen?
You know, I got a few ex-girlfriends that would beg to differ, but
I haven't talked to them, Terrence.
You know, no, first of all, thank you. That for me is the biggest compliment. The biggest thing that I've been trying to work on, which has really been the past 5 years of my life especially, is emotional intelligence. You know, we as men, we're raised to, you know, not think about our emotions. We're raised to not cry. We're raised to not communicate and talk to one another. I remember growing up and I would feel a way about something and somebody would tell me, yo, suck it up. Yo, man up, right? And when that happens, and then you go through these different challenges, especially in Hollywood, it's so easy to explode. You know, emotions are always right there. When you get turned down for an audition that you really want, or you do an interview that goes the wrong way, or, I mean, I've had plenty of embarrassing moments where I'm on TV and I mispronounce a word, mispronounce a name, I trip and fall. Like, all of it's happens. But emotional intelligence and being able to apologize for things, recognize flaws, communicate with people. You know, I got people I'll call 2 years later and be like, hey, you know, I thought about an interaction that we had 2 years ago, and I don't feel like that went well. And I just want to apologize for how I might have approached that meeting or how I approached that with you. And I think having that level of emotional intelligence and then just trying my best to just be nice to people, I think that's really helped me, you know, keep that reputation of, like, you know, you can hire me to do anything and nobody's going to come up and be like, yo, this is, because I just try to keep that level of emotional intelligence in all that I do.
The theme of this conference is somebody has to be great. Why not you? And it's basically going from good to great. What has your career taught you about that transition? What needs to happen for a person to say, I want to be great now?
So being great requires sacrifice. It doesn't matter what you want to do, right? Whether you want to be on TV and movies and real estate, a doctor, whatever it is, in order to be sufficient, you can have compromise in life. In order to be great, you have to be willing to sacrifice something for another thing. When Barack Obama tells you about his years leading up into his presidency and then those years of presidency, he had to sacrifice doing a lot of things with his children. He had to sacrifice things that he may have wanted to do with his wife or his family. He had to sacrifice multiple things while he was on that transition to being great. Then once you get maybe what you're looking for, then you can take the time after that. I'm sure that hopefully he's been able to take some well-deserved vacations after his presidency. But when you're in it, when you're LeBron James and you're going after that championship, those years, you have to be willing to sacrifice other areas in your life for the singular focus of what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to accomplish. And anybody that's great will tell you that they've had to make that sacrifice. They've had to miss dance recitals. They've had to miss graduations. They've had to miss hanging out at parties, going on dates, love life, personal life, family life. They've had to sacrifice some area in order to get what they wanted to get in other areas. So again, if you want that greatness, sacrifice at some point will be required.
So, final question. What would you say has been the greatest interview you've ever done in your entire career? Now, I know that's putting you on the spot.
This one right here. No, listen, that's a great question, Louis. Man, I'm so lucky. I got to interview Barack. I got to interview Beyonce. You know, I talk to Michael B. Jordan all the time and Jamie Foxx and cool people. But again, after doing it so many years in a row, I can say with all confidence, the best part of the job is rooms like this. The best part of the job is when we can come together and have dialogue and talk. I swear, like, I'd rather be here than a lot of other places, man. And I just want to applaud Louis Carr, who has been in the hallway. When I came in, I didn't even know what he did. But I would see him with these fly-ass suits walking up and down the hallway. I'd be like, yo, who is that? And I mean, he has, what is it, 39 years? 39. I mean, this is an absolute, when I like thought of like Boomerang and like what a cool executive looked like in market, like this is the coolest dude who has paved the way and gave so many checks, so many opportunities for so many of us. And so this is our first sit down like this after all these years. So man, this ranks up there. Thank you for having me, Louis. It really means a lot to me, man.
Thank you. Terrence J.